Welcome to the Talent Show. What's going on, everybody? So good to be with you. So good to see you. I want to give a very just huge thank you really quick for everybody supporting me. We reached the 200 subscriber mark on YouTube, and I've already exceeded a little over 200 now. So I just want to give a huge shout out and say thank you guys for that. 200 subscriber giveaway will be coming soon. So super appreciative for your support and love, guys. Thank you so much. So we move forward in season 5. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I had a super great conversation with Gary Chupik last week. So if you enjoyed that, leave a like and make sure you interact with us as moving forward. I don't want to talk too much because, we got a very huge, important guest today, and I really want to get to him and get to chat with them. But please welcome today the Ole Miss Athletic Director, Mr. Keith Carter. Woo!
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much for joining me, Mr. Carter. Super grateful to be able to chat with you real quick today. Appreciate you for giving me some of your time. I want to get right into it. Relatively recently, Ole Miss had the opportunity, softball team, first time in program history, get a chance to play in the Women's College World Series. And, the baseball team finally got that rhythm back over the last couple of years and got a chance to host a regional. For you personally, just as the athletic director, but as a fan of Ole Miss as well, what is it like to see those programs kind of bind together and make some history and bring some love and passion back to Oxford that's kind of been missing within that realm over the last few years?
Yeah, what a great year, and just to start with softball, so happy for Jamie and the young ladies, just a great year. And, to do it in a year when we get into the new stadium, which is really cool. And I know they enjoyed being in there. I think, they played there last year, obviously, but it was about halfway finished. And so to have it completely finished and fans there and to be able to make the run that they did. And you go on the road to Tucson, win the regional, then go to Fayetteville, win the super regional, and then get to Oklahoma City. What an incredible year. And, just a lot of hard work. You had some older players on the team, some younger players that contributed. And Jamie and the staff did a tremendous job. So, she'd been there before. She'd taken Minnesota to the Women's College World Series when she was there, and we knew that it was going to happen here eventually. And just an incredible year for them and something to truly build on, for the future. And then, baseball, Coach Bianco and everything that he's done over his career has just been incredible. Obviously in that national championship in 2022, and as you mentioned, a couple of years that just weren't really, what we were used to in the Coach Bianco, tenure. And that happens in baseball sometimes, for whatever reason, but, kind of righted the ship this year, hosted the regional, and, obviously a disappointing finish to, not be able to beat Murray State there, but they were hot. They were that made it all the way into Omaha. So, a great year for baseball. And I know both of those squads in programs have been very active in the transfer portal here over the last, 30 days or so. So, anticipating great things again next year.
Yes, sir. I'm going to jump the gun a lot with you, but I want to go to basketball. I want to kind of rewind with Chris Beard a little bit with you. His time in just 2 years in Oxford has been incredible, and the landscape that he's been able to develop in terms of a culture, recruiting process, and just obviously winning games on the court. Go back a few years ago for you with the landscape and love that you have within basketball, especially Ole Miss. What was the process in figuring out what was the next move after Kermit Davis was gone? And what were the key factors that you thought Chris Beard brought that could bring Ole Miss basketball to where it is now 2 years into the mix with him as the head coach here in Oxford?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, obviously, with my history here with basketball, it's a really, they're all important, but, I want basketball to be really good. And, when we went on the market that year looking for a coach, our goal was to find the best available coach and the best fit for Ole Miss. And, Coach Beard was there, and, his track record had showed that he was going to win kind of wherever he's been. He's been a winner. He's played in the national championship game at Texas Tech. And so, it was a great fit. And, when he got here, we knew it wasn't going to take long before success was going to follow. Year one, we were just a game or two away from getting in the tournament. And then obviously year two, you not only get in the tournament, but you get to the Sweet 16. And really we're just a possession away from, the Elite Eight, played Michigan State in a great game. So, we knew this was going to come, and we anticipate more. I think Coach Beard, again, has the proven track record that he's going to win. And, I was out actually watching our guys play the other day, a lot of the new guys and, a lot of talent on next year's roster. So excited about that. But, both men's and women's basketball are in really, really good places here at Ole Miss right now. Obviously, what Coach Yo has done on the women's side and the consistency that she has had and built the program into, I couldn't be happier with where our basketball programs are.
Yeah, I want to kind of ask you a little bit more in depth if possible, but you've had the opportunity to really, I would say, change the landscape of what athletics has looked like at Ole Miss since your time in your tenure as an AD in Oxford. But you've also had to deal with some difficult battles. And when I say that, keeping some coaches like Lane and Chris Beard and Coach Yo as well, that obviously a lot of other schools have tried to market and get them at their schools. For you, how do you evaluate whether or not you want to bring a coach back and renew their contract? And when you do that, what maybe goes into some of the details that maybe people wouldn't understand of, okay, this is what I need to do to get him or her back here. How can I successfully acquire what they want to keep them here and keep them happy? What goes into renewing a coach's contract and bringing them back and having them successful where they are here in Oxford?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think across the board, we have great coaches right now.
Yeah.
Really in all of our sports, we had to make a couple of changes. One of our women's tennis coach retired, so we had to hire a new coach there, and then we had to make a change on the men's tennis side. We have a new rifle coach as well. So, changes happen from time to time for whatever reason. But I think that what's been important for us is we've had a lot of support. The chancellor's been incredible. He understands, the value of athletics to the institution. So he's been a great partner in all of this. And, I think that it takes resources, it takes commitment. Yeah. And I think it's not just about the coach's salary either. It's a lot more than that. It's how are we going to support the program? Do the coaches feel like they can win here at a high level? Yeah. Obviously we're in the SEC, so we have an opportunity every time we go out to compete and win at the highest level. Yeah. But that's a two-edged sword. It's also the toughest competition in the country. Yeah. So, but I think just the commitment to the coaches and what their vision is. The support, across the campus with the chancellor, the donor base and fan base has been tremendous. I think they, selling out season tickets and showing up for games. And I think our coaches feel that, that this is a place that, we've had about 5 or 6 years now. We've compared what we're trying to do here to what you've seen at Clemson and Oregon and some of the, the places that maybe, traditionally haven't been, the powerhouse or whatever, but we have an opportunity to break into that group. And, I think now, I was traveling a bunch with our teams this spring, really all across the country and wearing the Ole Miss logo, you get a lot of hottie toddies. The brand recognition is really, really strong. We're playing against great competition across the board in all of our sports. And so I think when you do that, you all of a sudden start to become one of those upper echelon programs. And I think we're right there where we need to be.
Yes, sir. For you personally, in terms of your job and your everyday life, how has NIL changed the landscape of what you do? Has it made it harder? Has it made your days longer? Like, what has it personally done for what you do in your everyday landscaping as well? Is it maybe bring a different dynamic to what you do? Does it bring a little bit more joy? Like, how has NIL changed the landscape of what you do as an athletic director in the SEC?
It's changed a lot, and it's good change in a lot of ways, in most ways, because we're all for student athletes having the opportunity to, benefit from their name, image, and likeness. And now with rev share starting, we'll be sharing revenue with our student athletes. Again, we think that's a good thing, but it does create just a lot of time and effort and thought process on how you're going to make it work and what the new model is going to look like. And to be honest, we've kind of been going through the last couple of years in a world where we didn't have all the black and white rules, and the guardrails and guidelines. So my hope is now with the House settlement and where we are moving forward with rev share, that we can get on a little more stability and what, some guidelines and rules and those type of things. But, when I first started as the AD in 2019, the things we did and the things we spent our time on then are sure a lot different than what we talk about and spend time on now. With the transfer portal and NIL and rev share and all the new college models. So it's certainly challenging, but I say it all the time, a lot of opportunity in this new model as well.
Yes, sir. When you assess, getting ready to go into a new athletic season, like at this point right now, do you have any, I may say goals in terms of maybe specific things that you want to accomplish in terms of maybe every sport or specifically all the sports gathered together? Are there any goals that you write down before, in the middle of the summer where you're thinking, I want to get this revenue for football here, or I want to get this renovation done for, the baseball done here? Is there any goals that you have getting ready to go into the season, maybe this year and in general or throughout your time here at Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think every year this is kind of the time of year. Of course, we're thinking about it, year round, but this is really the time when we dive into what next year is going to look like.
Yeah.
We have our senior staff, which consists of about 22 or 23 people. We have a retreat in early August to, kind of solidify and go through goals for the next year and those type of things. But I just think from a competitive standpoint, our goal really is to be good in every program. We want to get into the postseason in every program. I think that is a minimum goal for us, is to get into the NCAA tournament or competition in postseason for every sport. And in a given year, you're going to have different sports that have a chance to make runs and deep runs, and we saw that this year with men's golf and softball and some that we had. And it's going to be different every year. You can't expect every year for every program to get to the Final Four or get it with a national championship. But we want to go deep into the postseason. We want to finish high in the Learfield rankings, which ranks all the college athletics programs based on postseason play. From a renovation and capital project standpoint, we certainly are talking about those things in a parallel path as well. And so there's just a lot of things that certainly we want to accomplish. But the bottom line is we feel like we had a really good year this past year. We want to get even better next year, so we're going to continue to do the things we need to do that.
I've had the joy of being here for 3 years now, and I always find myself seeing you at a football game, at a basketball, at a women's basketball game, at the volleyball games, at the baseball and softball games. And I know it's maybe a little bit easier for you since you have a tie to this school, this university, this town. But for you personally, why is it so important as an athletic director to have your face there and know that your coaches and these athletes here at this school have the support of their athletic director? Why is it so important for you to be there in the moment within your programs and within your teams at this university?
Well, I think some of it is kind of what you mentioned. I mean, this is my university. I'm an alum and was a student athlete here. And I remember, just what a great experience I had as a student athlete. And things were a lot different back then, than they are now. But my goal every day when I get up is to make sure that, the things that I do and the things that our administration does, contributes to that great experience for the student athletes. And part of that is me being visible, me being out and one, I enjoy it. I love to go out with my family. We go a lot to the events and we enjoy it. But two, I think it's important, obviously we're going to be at the football game. We're going to be at the basketball games, but I think it's important to go out to our Olympic sports as well and just be there and be present and show them that we're supporting. And, if we expect them to spend the time and effort and hours and practice and in the classroom and study hall and those type of things, then we need to go out and show our support, and give them the opportunity to be successful. So, one, I enjoy it. Two, it's a responsibility, but I certainly want to make sure that every student athlete we have feels like we're supporting them.
Yes, sir. I'm obviously football is the thing here in Oxford, and within the SEC, it's obviously the thing as well. Lane Kiffin has done a fantastic job, not only winning games here at Ole Miss so far, but, developing what you kind of talked about earlier and making Ole Miss a national brand. When people see that Ole Miss logo, I get the hottie toddies. Where I'm somewhere away from Mississippi, I get the, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. For you, how would you evaluate Lane's time here and what he's been able to do, not only just in terms of winning games, but making the product of Ole Miss a national brand and being able to compete with some of the top schools in the country? Now, for you, how would you evaluate Lane's time here as a coach, but as well your relationship with him as two men and two dads and two coaches as well?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I've said it publicly a lot here over the past, 6 months or so. Lane obviously has done a tremendous job on the field, with the results that we have. I think we're the fourth highest winning program in the SEC, over his tenure, over his 5 years, and now going into year 6. So, the results there, and the scoreboard kind of speak for themselves. And we still have goals. We want to get into the college football playoff. We want to win a national championship, and we talk about those things. So we're certainly not finished. But what I'm so, happy about is just, like you said, the relationship that he and I have. His growth, both professionally and personally, has been awesome. I think the first couple of years we were kind of all feeling each other out. He was feeling Ole Miss out. We were feeling him out. And, it's been awesome to see now going into year 6, just how much, he's made Oxford and Ole Miss home. And I think that that's starting to pay a lot of dividends in recruiting. It's starting to pay dividends in the community, all those things. And it's contagious. It trickles down through our athletics department. So, when football is that visible and you need a leader that is all in, is bought in. And I think Lane is certainly, there now. And it's been fun to watch. But as I said before, I think we're just getting started and can't wait to see what the next 5 years looks like for the Ole Miss football program.
Yes, sir. If you can, I'm okay if obviously you can't answer this question, but I know the revenue shares kind of just dropped not too long ago. And, I kind of want to just ask you, how do you dive into the millions of dollars that have to be made up or how they have to, kind of be distributed properly within each athletic program? What goes into that? When people see that $20.5 million, I think some people get a little bit scared. So what kind of goes into that for you in terms of making sure you're doing your job as properly as you can and making sure this athletic program here at Ole Miss is developing as best as it can to the goals that you want to have for the future?
Yeah, obviously rev share, the topic of conversation these days. And, on the first, what's today, the third, on the first couple of days ago, the first rev share payments were made. We have not technically made ours yet. Ours are more toward the middle and later part of the month, but a lot of athletic departments have already paid rev share. So it's been a huge deal. For us here at Ole Miss, obviously we're going full on rev share, $20.5 million. And, we're in on all that. And obviously to your point, it does create, a challenging math problem to figure out how we're going to come up with that money, how are we going to distribute that money. The chancellor's been a huge support in this process, which has been great. We're trying to find new revenue streams to help support that. And then obviously we're gonna share revenue with our sports that create revenue. It's revenue. So we're gonna the 5 sports that we're gonna share revenue with are football, men's, women's basketball, baseball, and then softball. Because now with the new stadium, we are charging admission and ticketing for softball now. So we'll share revenue with those 5 sports. I don't want to give out the exact percentages, but kind of what you're hearing nationally, we're in those ranges, and so it's going to be great. And again, I've said it so many times, like nobody this fall is coming to Ole Miss on a Saturday to watch me or our administration do anything. They're coming to watch Austin Simmons and, all these guys play football. They deserve a piece of the rev share. I'm all for it. But, it does cause, to your point earlier, a lot of discussions behind closed doors and around tables of how we're going to make it happen. And I can't give our staff and, the folks that surround me, here in this building enough credit for figuring it out. It's been really cool.
Yes. What's going on, family? I hate to interrupt the video going on right now. Hope you guys are enjoying it, but I have to give a quick shout out to our very first sponsor, Shadrach's Coffee. Shadrach's is a coffee company that has been in the works for 17 years now, originally originated in the state of Arkansas, my home state. And now they have ventured to Tennessee and Oxford, Mississippi. Shadrach's has opened their arms to me and put their faith in me. And I just want to say thank you to Shadrach's. If you're in Oxford, you can find Shadrach's at 1797 Jackson Avenue West here in Oxford. And even if you're on the Ole Miss campus, they have different locations on their food truck aisles across the campus. They're usually open at their Jackson Avenue Center from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
I'm very intrigued and to ask you, personally, how much time do you spend on things such as, developing how good the music at the football stadium can be played during the games, or like, maybe chants at the athletic programs, or maybe just, live interaction at football games? How much time do you spend kind of focusing on those aspects of maybe like what's the band playing or what's being shown on the Videotron or how to interact the fans with the football game? How much time do you spend looking at things like that to make sure the Vaught is developing a great interaction with fans to continue making it one of the best atmospheres in college football every year?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on that, and I do myself, but we have a great staff in marketing and productions and game day, operations and those type of things. So I think we've seen over the past couple of years that our experiences in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium or the Pavilion or Swayze or whatever it looks like have really grown. The bottom line is if you want to just get better, just add more fireworks, right? We can just always add more fireworks, and that always helps. But it's been great. And we certainly look around the country, see, try to be first movers. Like we were one of the first to do the drone show. We were, one of the first to do light shows and those type of things. So, we're always trying to improve. I love a good flyover, at the national anthem, just
Yeah.
just things that get people really fired up, and it's important, the timing too. In the fourth quarter, you need some things that are really awesome to kind of keep your team going and finish games, and help keep students in the stadium, and we know that the square is calling and the Grove is calling, but we want them to stay. So we talk a lot about it, and we'll continue to do that in ways we can improve that game day atmosphere for sure.
Yes, sir. Staying on the vault, and again, I know you can't talk too much about this, but I know waves have been going through over the last year and a half too about, will renovations happen at Vaught-Hemingway? What's kind of the progress and timestamp on that? What for you is maybe the next move for that? How are you processing? What's the timetable to do what you can do for the renovations, and maybe what's like your long landscape of hopefully doing what you can and what you would like to do for the renovations at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium?
Yeah, we, a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, we put out a big capital campaign, and we had a renovation to the west side. And then that was literally about 3 or 4 months before all of the NIL started and paying players and those type of things. So we kind of had to put that on the shelf for a while. We'll revisit. I think if you look across the landscape of all of our facilities, we're in really good shape in most places. The stadium is the one place that, when you don't have that 65,000 people in there and you just walk around, it's got some cracks and it's showing its age and those type of things. So we're going to definitely revisit how we can, enhance and renovate the stadium. You'll see some minor improvements this year in concession areas and different things that we're doing just to kind of put some lipstick on it, as we move forward. But as far as, big major renovations, I think probably in the next 12 to 18 months, we will really start to revisit, what we could do for that stadium.
Yes, sir. Look, I want to ask you, Keith, a little fun question, but if someone didn't know anything at all about Keith Carter, what would be the most important thing that you would want people to know about who you are as a person?
Probably just faith and family. That's those things are really important to me, kind of away from the profession. I'm just a normal guy, and I have a great family and a great support team at home, and faith is very important to me. We attend Pine Lake, and that's a big part of our lives, and so that's important. But I think for me, it's just that I want to leave a legacy here at Ole Miss. When it's finally all said and done, that helped a lot of people. I think that's the main thing. I wouldn't be here without the help of so many people along the way, and I want to be able to look back and I guess if there's one thing that I want people to remember me by is he helped people, and so hopefully we can do that and do a lot of good things, win a lot of games along the way. But that's one of the things that I hope people will remember me for sure.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that because you kind of answered something I was going to ask. But another little thing before I get you out of here, I like to call it like fruits of labor. So if people watching this don't really, take anything away from anything that we've talked about, I would hope that they remember what you say here. So Keith, if you could give advice to anybody watching or listening, just, some life advice that maybe you've learned away, maybe something that, someone has passed along to you, what advice would you want to give people to kind of just remember in the back of their mind and maybe help them going through a difficult situation or help them get through the day? What advice, what's something that you want to tell people listening right now?
Yeah, I think just keep going. I look back over my life and my professional career and, even how I ended up at Ole Miss. Sometimes your plan isn't always the best, and you look back and you're like, holy cow, that worked out exactly like it was supposed to. And a lot of it's because you continue to work hard, you continue to do the things that your core values tell you to do. But just keep going, keep working hard. And, it's gotten to the point where I think, you look across the landscape of any profession and, bosses and supervisors, they want people that are just extremely hard workers. They keep their head down. They do the job. But yeah, just keep going and realize that, if something doesn't go exactly your way, it may be because something much bigger and better is in store.
Yes, sir. One last thing before I do get a chat here, I want to ask you, do you have an end goal in terms of, Ole Miss and what you want to hopefully accomplish here as an athletic director? What's maybe your end goal in terms of once you're like said and done, you want to say, I was able to do this and I'm very proud that I was able to do that for this university?
Yeah. And I certainly, when I answer this, it's not just me individually. I mean, it's with our staff. It's with, like I mentioned, my family as a support staff from home and just friends. And, it takes a huge village to do this thing at Ole Miss and Ole Miss athletics. But, I want to look back and say, what, we accomplished a lot of great things. We're all judged by the scoreboard in athletics. So that means winning, and we got to win, and we hope to do that and continue to do that even at a higher level. But we want to graduate young people. We want to make sure that they have an opportunity to go build a great life after Ole Miss, and we prepare them for that. And again, I hope that I can look back when I'm 60 or 70 years old and say, man, we gave a lot of people the exact same opportunity that I had, that Keith Carter had, and I was able to do so many things because of Ole Miss athletics and the opportunities that were given to me. I want to give those same opportunities to so many young people. So that's kind of my goal. And you always talk about leaving your legacy and whatever that is, but to me, it's about helping others and putting them in great positions. And if we can do that, I'll feel like that's a pretty good day's work.
Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Carter, I appreciate you so much for giving me a little bit of your time today. It was really a great time for me to be able to sit down and chat with you today. So again, thank you so much, and we wish the best on everything that you have going forward.
Thanks, Dalen. Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you so much. And howdy toddy, y'all. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. Leave a like and comment. Appreciate Mr. Carter again so much. Thank you, guys. God bless.